August 3rd, 2022. I want to talk about a couple of things today. The thing on the title page is what the main topic is, but first I want to address a couple of issues. The first one is that, of course, the weekend and recent days have been dominated a lot by the Joe Manchin's deal with Schumer on a tax and spending plan. And that's not what I'm going to get into today, but I did have on the previous video on Saturday, I did have a pretty good discussion of the subject, and it seems like there wasn't much of an audience for it. So I'll put a link in it below just in case you might be interested in it, because I think it is a fairly good analysis of what was in the bill and things around it. The other thing, of course, is we're still waiting to see how the Nancy Pelosi trip to Taiwan goes, but I think it'll be not as eventful as a lot of Chinese propagandists have suggested. So now I get on to the main topic here, which is the issue of the treatment of people from the January 6th riot and how that compares to all the various Antifa and BLM riots we've had in the country, and the idea that we're really operating under kind of a two-tier justice system, and that's kind of what I want to focus on here, because they seem like what sort of prompted this discussion for me was a exchange that occurred on Twitter yesterday, which was basically, and in fact I said very little on it, but somebody on there made a comment to the effect that about, were the people from January 6th, were they being tortured? And I kind of asked the question, are they being tortured? And the person that raised the issue didn't really address it directly. I was wondering if they had any specific case or evidence. So at any rate, actually there is a case, because I remember some time back on, I think it was on Tucker Carlson show, a lawyer for one of the January 6th people who are being held without bail, claimed, in fact, that he was actually removed from his cell by guards and beaten and seriously injured, and actually suffered some probably permanent injuries from it. So, whether that's quote torture or not, that's another question. But certainly it's inappropriate, and as far as I can tell, that it wasn't an action taken to protect the guards, because he was securely in his cell when this thing began, as I understand it. So anyhow, by the way, if you like these videos, please, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Appreciate that. And you could, give me a like, which helps out with the algorithm if you like the video. And of course, comments are appreciated. But what I'm getting to is there is a big difference. Now, in no way does this justify the riot on January the 6th or any other riot or any other illegal action. But let's face it, the way these people are being treated is not the way that any normal suspects of similar instances are being treated. In fact, there's absolutely no reason that they all couldn't be put out on bail if they could make bail. There's absolutely no reason they couldn't be. None of them are that of any serious danger to the country. And in fact, if necessary, they could have a typical leg, ankle, monitoring and that sort of thing. Now, should they eventually receive a prison sentence? Well, the only problem I have with it is maybe the sentences that most of them are getting are not really inappropriate for what they did. But what is inappropriate is the lack of sentences for all these other rioters, these Antifa and BLM rioters. For instance, people tried to attack the White House during in the aftermath of the George Floyd incident. We had the ongoing battle that occurred sometime back in the courthouse in Portland, Oregon, instances where federal marshals were hit with laser beams in the eyes and suffered permanent eye damage, allegedly. And almost all these people that were arrested have all been let off without charges by the current administration. On the other hand, we have instances where various nonviolent suspects are being arrested and shackled, when they could just as easily be told to report, for booking. I mean, they're not people that are going to run away. They're not dangerous people. They're not armed. They're not going to harm a federal officer. And such as Mr. Navarro, for instance, as an example. I mean, or the crazy raid on Roger Stone that occurred, or the way that Paul Manafort was treated. we really are dealing with a corrupt justice system in this country. And in fact, if a country, excuse me, that wasn't very friendly with the United States were to do the same things, we'd be calling it a human rights violation. I'm sure we would be, right? So the fact of the matter is that this is kind of an outrage, and we need to have a major overhaul of the Justice Department. There needs to be some major house cleaning in the FBI and the Justice Department lawyers, because they really are out of control and they're not behaving in an equitable manner for the people of this country. And that's basically the point I'm making here. Now, hopefully, after the election, it'll be possible to get some sort of reform on this issue. But for the meantime, I just thought I'd mention this subject. As far as the January 6th suspects, or whatever you want to say, I mean, after all, they've used detailed geolocation measures to track down the cell phones and identify the people who, for instance, merely walked into the Capitol and didn't damage or destroy anything, didn't chase any member of Congress, didn't attack any police officer or anything of the sort. And they're still going to the great trouble of going after and prosecuting all these people for misdemeanors. I mean, nothing like this is being done in almost any other protest effort. And of course, then we have, of course, the absurdity of our January the 6th committee, that totally illegitimate. And in fact, if the courts had any integrity, they would have probably struck the thing down. But at any rate, because I mean, that people have kind of looked at the issue, but I guess the courts surely want to stay away from messing with Congress, or Congress will mess around with them, perhaps. But it really is completely absurd the way Pelosi's handled this thing. And of course, we do look forward to the political defeat of Liz Cheney in the upcoming primary here in a couple of weeks. That'll be joyful. And of course, our other person that got already is not going to be. His district has been eliminated, so he's kind of a big loser in this whole thing. But anyway, that's kind of my general attitude toward this subject. I think that we need to get back to a system where somehow we have some equity in the way we treat things. Now, I do agree that January the 6th was a riot that occurred at a very, sensitive place at a very sensitive time, in a way that's more serious than some of these other things. However, people literally trying to break into the White House grounds, that's pretty serious too. And I don't think any of them were treated on anything like this level of prosecution. So at any rate, that's kind of what I think about that subject. Now that'd be kind of interesting to see what comments anybody has. And of course, like I said below, mentioned earlier, you might on the Manchin-Schmer bill, I'll put a link below to that if you haven't seen it already. If you already seen it, that's great. And anyhow, and of course, you can follow me on my social media accounts. I have the addresses of those below. As I point out, I probably found more active on Twitter, and you can follow me on Twitter, and I'm on the other sites as well. And I mainly use them often just to post these videos so I can get them out to other people that would be interested, although I do post on Gab and Parler from time to time as well. So at any rate, we'll wrap this up for now, and until next time.